Afghanistan is faced with a huge challenge.
Relations have gone really sour between us and our allies.
We have inflicted considerable damage on the enemy.
The people who make international headlines.
Ultimately, the truth will out.
They want to stop this publication of information that embarrasses them.
Make time for Sir David Frost. Frost over the world. At this time on Al Jazeera.
Hello again, live from Doha. This is Al Jazeera. A reminder of our top stories this hour. In the battle for Libya, anti-Gaddafi forces are celebrating in the key oil port of Ras Lanuf. They've managed to hang on to the city after repelling an attack by loyalists. Soldiers serving there with pro-Gaddafi units have reportedly switched sides. Fresh clashes are reported to have left dozens dead in the town of AlJazeera. A doctor has told Al Jazeera that there have been up to 200 casualties after opposition fighters repelled an attack by Gaddafi loyalists. And anti-government fighters say they're in control of Brega, the key oil port west of the capital Tripoli. Witnesses say that at least 24 people were killed in clashes there on Friday. Well, the fighting between pro and anti-government forces is now into its third week, and in key cities, a food crisis now is looming. From AlJazeera, Al Jazeera's Jackie Rowland reports.
This is something unheard of in AlJazeera, a bread queue. The bakery opened at 7 in the morning, and since then people have been standing in line. It's extremely unusual. Normally there would be absolutely no need to queue for bread. Well, as you can see, the problem isn't a shortage of flour. They've got sacks and sacks of the stuff. The wheat is imported. The flour mill is about 100 kilometers to the east of here, and they're not having any problems getting deliveries of flour. The problem is with the people who actually make the bread. Here in AlJazeera, most of the bakers are Egyptian. For example, the man who runs the bakery is an Egyptian. But the problem is that half of his staff ran away when the uprising began, so he was left with no one to produce the bread. So he's had to train local people in the art of bakery. It's pretty difficult because you've got people who have no experience at all. And the problem is that the people of AlJazeera are eating the bread more quickly than they can produce it. Bread is a real staple here, and it's very cheap as well. You get 20 of these loaves for 1 Libyan dinar. Now, at the moment, there is no shortage of things to eat. There's plenty of rice in the shop, cooking oil, basic foods like that. The problem is distribution, and there is a fear that if the fighting gets closer to AlJazeera, then the distribution lines may be cut, and at that point, there could be a real risk of people going hungry.
Well, as the fighting continues, so does the exodus. China continues to pull its nationals out of Libya. The government says that it's evacuated nearly 36,000 of its people from the country. That's the largest overseas operation ever undertaken by Beijing. It's even taken the unprecedented step of sending a Navy missile frigate to the coast of Libya. Well, other foreign nationals have been fleeing across the border, many of them into Tunisia. Al Jazeera's Mohammed Val sent this update from the Ras Ajdir crossing on the Libya-Tunisia border.
Some of them have been saying that the situation is calm along the road that they have been driving through to come to this crossing, while some Africans, particularly Ghanaians, have been telling us about harassment along the road. They said that their phones were taken from them, some of their property was stripped off from them, and that they were harassed along the road. But the story that we have been told by Egyptians is different. They said everything is calm. I was even asking a man who had some wounds on his face, and I was trying to get him to explain to me why he has some wounds on his face and why he was saying at the same time that nothing happened to them. And we can't understand that. Was it because they were afraid of the Libyans if they say anything bad against them? We don't understand. But the problem now, the main issue that is unsolved until now here is the problem of the Bangladeshis. About 2 or 3 kilometers from here, we have about 4,000 of them still stranded, unable to find any transport outside the country, and they have been complaining of bad living conditions.
Well, as Mohammed reported, thousands of Bangladeshis remain trapped, unable to get out of Libya. Their government has been criticised for being too slow to take action. Walia Rahman is a former Bangladeshi Foreign Affairs Secretary, and he told my colleague Darren Jordan that the government is doing its best to get its people out.
So 8 million Bangladeshis working abroad, about a little over 50,000 more or less Bangladeshis work in Libya. And they were very happily working all these days until this revolution broke out. Now, many of them have gone to Tunisia, majority of them, and the rest of them have gone to Egypt. And Tunisia and Egypt taken together would be about 4,000 to 5,000. And many more are coming to the border. And the government of Bangladesh is giving all support, all possible support, in lifting them from those two countries. And also, they are considering situation, depending on the situation, developing situation in Libya.
Why is it taken so long for the Bangladeshi government to get into action to help these people?
Well, I tell you, because we thought that situation will calm down, but then as soon as we realized that no, it is not going to calm down soon, or anytime soon, then the government of Sheikh Hasina has been trying its level best to get them out as soon as possible and give them all kinds of support.
The former Bangladeshi Foreign Affairs Secretary. Now, Italy's Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi is back on trial on alleged corruption charges. His legal team insists that he'll attend all his court hearings for the first time in years. He's accused of fraud and embezzlement over the acquisition of television rights on his Mediaset media empire. He had his immunity from prosecution largely withdrawn in January. He faces a separate trial in April on charges of paying for sex with an underage nightclub dancer and allegedly trying to cover it up. He denies all charges. A national period of mourning has been announced in Nepal. The two-time former Prime Minister, Krishna Prasad Bhattarai, has died at the age of 87. He led a popular movement to restore multi-party democracy twice in the 1990s. He'll be cremated on Sunday. Also in Nepal, the Maoist party has agreed to join a coalition government, ending a month-long deadlock. The Himalayan former kingdom is still struggling to recover from a decade-long civil war. Subina Shrestha reports from the capital, Kathmandu.
Prabha Kharka lost her husband 5 years ago in Nepal's last revolution.
At that time, everyone was protesting. My husband also joined. He used to say that we have to protest for the country, for the people and for freedom.
Pradyumna Kharka was shot dead by security forces on the 20th of April 2006. He's remembered as a martyr. After 10 years of civil war with Maoist rebels and governed by an unpopular autocratic monarch, people were angry. Opposition leaders promised to bring peace and address the country's problems. The state retaliated with violence.
This was the intersection where Pradyumna was shot.